We got 402 Jap planes that day, wiping out the air groups of the entire Japanese fleet. The next day, the planes of Task Force 58 returned to call. The retiring Japanese fleet went home minus 2 carriers, 2 destroyers, and a tanker, and with 11 cripples in tow. The infantry could proceed with their business without fear of further interruption. By August, all organized resistance had ceased. The Marianas were ours. We had gained in Guam the bases to support further operations throughout the far Pacific. We had the sea power to keep open its communications with the mainland. We had gained the shore facilities from which to mount further amphibious advances toward the Japanese Empire. And we had gained the air bases from which B-29s could smash at Japan itself. The pace of our overwater advance continued to mount. Palau completed the isolation of Truk. Morotai protected our flank as we advanced toward the Philippines. But somewhere to the west and north lurked the Japanese fleet. It could challenge our invasion armada converging on Leyte. Japanese sea power was not on hand to oppose our landings. But while we were most vulnerable, the Japanese fleet closed in from 3 sides. The Jap finally saw that only a decisive victory over our fleet could stop the overwater advances that were rapidly driving him back from his stolen empire. But we were ready for him. After 3 days of sea and air battle, the mangled Japanese fleet dragged itself away with a broken back. Never again would it contest our control of the seas. The Jap fleet, as a mobile striking force, was eliminated. But the Japanese still had one great defensive weapon. He had air power based on an interlocking network of airfields, concentrated most heavily on the southern home islands. From here on in, our fleet would come under the diving fire of the whole Imperial Air Force. Iwo Jima and Okinawa were outposts, flanking the approaches to the home islands. In February of 1945, we launched an amphibious assault on Iwo Jima, securing a fighter base to support the long-range bombing of Japan. In April, we landed on Okinawa. As our troops advanced across the island, the Japs fought back from caves and hillside tombs, from pillboxes and fortified towns. The infantry had to have support from heavy naval guns, cover from shipborne aircraft. The fleet would have to stay. To drive us out of Okinawa, the Japanese had to drive away our fleet. Without sea power, his only hope was to do it from the air. From the islands of their birth came the Japanese pilots on their last mission. This was land-based air power in its deadliest form. But we stayed and fought it out. While we fought them off, we delivered 33,000 tons of shells, 50,000 tons of bombs and rockets into the island defenses. We flew 20,000 sorties from our carriers in close support of the ground troops. With Okinawa secured, we now held a great triangle of bases. A forward anchor for our armed might, and a springboard for future operations. From these bases, the guns of the fleet could close to the very shores of Japan. From these bases, our shore-based air power could hammer the cities of the homeland. And from these bases, we could apply the atomic bomb at the instant of its development, hastening the end of the war. The Pacific War was a struggle for sea power, the greatest naval war in history. Only the mobile striking power of a fleet, with its seaborne air and gun power, can command the sea. Only a fleet could have stopped us, a fleet superior to our own. Guadalcanal, Kwajalein, the Marianas, the Philippines, we took them all. Static defenses, no matter how strong, are impotent without control of their sea approaches. The Pacific was the arena, the sea the avenue of approach, and sea power the means of advancing. Sea power to enable the seizure of bases, and the bases in turn to support the next forward stride. Sea power, the spearhead of our westward march along the ocean road to Japan.